This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
That's right, coming to you live from the Circus Sportsbook here in downtown Las Vegas. I'm Scott Seidenberg, joined by Will Hill here on VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the sports betting network. It is the finale, or the two finales, of the NBA play-in round. This is not officially a playoff game. If you had a team to make the playoffs ticket, they will have to win the games tonight. And the first one is about to get underway from Atlanta. The Heat against the Hawks. Will Hill with me here on VSiN Primetime. Will, we saw a lot of movement here in the odds today leading up to this game as we are about to close the Miami Heat here at Circa -2, -115 with a total of 220.5, and there are 221s out there in the market. What is your take on where this line has settled as we are moments away from tip-off?
Yeah, what's going on, Scott? Some sharp money on the Heat. Well, some money on the Heat. Well, I guess we'll find out quickly here how sharp it is. I like the under more than anything. I just think elimination game, familiarity between these two teams, play in the same division. They play all the time. Miami plays good defense. They like to play slow. I think you'll get some ratchet up the intensity here defensively with the winner going to the playoffs, the loser going home. So I still like the under. Like you mentioned, it's been a weird push and pull here with the market. We're open 221, and we were doing the show right as the market opened, and it got down to 216, 217 in some spots, and then it's rocketed back up. So we'll see what happens here. There's been a lot of movements on these unders with these planes in general. Some have moved back. That Dallas-Sacramento one moved about 11.5 points and eventually went over even the original total. So we'll see how it plays out. I lean towards Miami just because I think Hero and Adebayo is better than anything Atlanta has. Better coach with Spoelstra. So I don't know if you saw the Charles Barkley. Did you see this? Did you see his promotion for this game?
No. What did he say?
He said both these teams sucks. Who cares about either one of them, basically?
Well, both these teams are not going to win a game in the first round, so you don't know nothing, Chuck. I imagine that's exactly how that broadcast went.
Yes.
Gentlemen, let's settle down. That was my Ernie impression. So
not bad.
Here's it's amazing because here's my roller coaster of emotions over the past day or so. When the line opened up, you and I immediately took the under. Now you played at DraftKings because you're in a market where you're able to play DraftKings, so you got the under 221 or 221.5. You got the hook. You got under you got under 221.5. So you're feeling great, right? And then I had to wait until a book in Vegas opened it. I jumped in on the under 219, and I'm happy because it goes down to 218 to 217. You mentioned 216.5, back up to 217.5. Either way, I'm feeling great. And then I'm checking the books today, and the market's now up to, as we mentioned, 221, 220.5. All of a sudden, I went from getting all this CLV to now having negative CLV on this game. I still think we're good with the under, but this is just going to be too annoying of a sweat for me, I think.
You have any feel on the side?
No. I did, however, play Tyler Hero over 2.5 threes again. Although I'm not exactly happy that after I played it, I saw John Ewing from MGM tweet out that the Tyler Hero over 2.5 3-pointers is the most bet player prop tonight in this game. So
makes sense.
I know,
I'm not surprised,
but I'm not happy when the entire world is on the bet.
Sure.
But I did play Tyler Hero over 2.5 threes. I am on the under. I also played Trae Young under 26.5 points. You and I spoke about that yesterday. I still think that he goes under this mark. So those are the two props that I have with the total in this game, and I have several props for the Mavericks and Grizzlies game that we will get to coming up in a few minutes or a little bit later on in the program, as that game doesn't tip off until 9:30 Eastern time. But Will, as the game is about to start, from a live betting perspective, is there anything that you would like to see in the first 5 to 10 minutes or maybe just the whole first quarter of this game that you would be intrigued in a live bet if blank happens?
Yeah, just the usual 3-point variance. Like the other night where Miami was, they make 6 of their first 9, 10 of the first 18 from 3. We were both sitting here and somehow we didn't capitalize on it. Say this has to regress. Maybe you look at a second half under. We both went in different directions in the second half. I forget what exactly, but just the 3-point variance. See who's getting good shots. Keep an eye on the pace. And again, there's a lot of betting ahead of us with the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, baseball every day. I'm not going to force something and bet it just to bet it, but always keep an eye on the pace and the 3-point variance early. How about you?
Well, I'm going to go based off what we saw in that last game from the Miami Heat, where the Heat, and I tweeted it out, scored more points in the first quarter than they did the entire second half. And,
you love this. Yeah.
And we should have just, when that live total jumped up to in the 240 range, we should have took all of our money and pulled it together and taken a live under. So if there is a torrid pace to start this game, and this total, which I'm already in on the under at 219, where it's going to go off at 221, if this thing pushes up into beyond the 230 range, I will go in on a live under.
Makes sense. I'm with you. How about the late game? Anything for you there?
Yes.
Memphis laying 6 to Dallas?
Yes, I have a ton of player props in this game. I have gone really maybe too wild on the player props in this game. And it's all according to how I think the game's going to play out. So the first thing for me is I don't know how healthy Ja Morant is. And I have a feeling that Ja Morant does not complete this game. So the first thing I did was bet Ja under points. Now I got the worst of the number because I could have bet this maybe a day ago and gotten a number that was prior to the reports about him getting an injection in the ankle and how swollen it is. But I still went in on Ja Morant under the point total here. The other thing that I played in correlation to the Ja Morant points going under is Desmond Bane points to go over. All right, now that makes sense to you right now, right?
Of course.
Yes. So if Ja goes under, Bane goes over, and also correlated to Ja going under and also Bane going over, I played Jaren Jackson Jr. over points, rebounds, and assists. So I think he's going to have to be a big part of this offense. I think he's going to have to be, attack the glass and give them extra possessions. And so I think that both he and Bane will be the leaders for this Grizzlies team. And I'm fading Ja Morant, and I'm going high on both Bane and Triple J. And then I also did Klay Thompson over 2.5 3-pointers made.
I like it. My only concern with the Triple J one with the Jaren Jackson Jr. is he has a tendency to get into foul trouble, and then Davis bothering him defensively. And you figure you're going to get as much Anthony Davis as you could possibly get facing elimination here. So that would be my only concern. But I think your logic is spot on here. Morant is correlated with Bane and vice versa. If Morant is not healthy, you're getting a 2-for-1 because chances are Bane's going to step up and steal some of that production. So I really like that. So what? That's a 3-legger you did?
Well, I didn't parlay it. I just did them all individually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on. Who do you think I am?
Well, the parlay's correlated. The parlay would make sense
parlay guy?
Is...
All right. I did do a same game parlay. You're right. Yeah, Caesars. I did the same game parlay. Put them all together, and
if it's correlated and you're getting a fair price, there's nothing wrong with parlays. When there's correlation, parlays are fine.
You know you're not getting a fair price, but it's okay. You just know you're not getting a fair price. Plus 500 on Bane to go. Oh, did I not? Okay. Wait a minute. I don't think it got the. The Triple J is not in there. So it's only Bane. I did Mavericks plus the points under for Morant and over for Bane. The Triple J
it's
I
not
did.
Bad.
Triple J I did as a standalone.
So you like Dallas plus the points. Your whole thing is you're not buying the idea that Ja's healthy, which I tend to agree with.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good angle.
And the thing with Triple J is, yes, he gets into foul trouble, but there was a game where I was right here on VSiN on a live bet Saturday show, and he only had 4 points in the first half of a game because he had 3 fouls early and only played, about 13 minutes or whatever it was. Like he barely played. Actually, it was less than that. I think it was like 8 minutes. He barely played in the first half. And so I bet his live total to go over because it was so like over adjusted, and he played the majority of the second half and wound up with 28 or 30 points in that game. So it was a monster second half for him. He's capable of doing that. The reason why I like going with his overs is we know he's capable of getting rebounds. So I'm not even worried about that. The points, I think he's going to shoot some threes in this game. I don't have the guts to go over 2.5 threes, even at plus money on Jaren Jackson Jr., but would it surprise you if he attempts several three-pointers in this game and makes at least 2, maybe 3?
No, wouldn't surprise me. And as we're doing this, I did add a live bet. I just bet Marlins under 0.5 hits for the third inning against Wheeler. 7, 8, 9 due up in the order. They've gone 6 up, 6 down. I missed it in the second inning because we were doing the show, but I'm not missing it in the third. Marlins under 0.5 hits. Third inning. We're going to commercial here in a minute. Can you bet that? Are you going to ride with me here?
What? So you want Marlins under a hit in the third inning?
Yeah, Marlins to go hitless in the third inning with 7, 8, 9.
I will try to get on that. I love the fact that the Phillies are up 2-0 because I have the Phillies minus a half a run in the first 5 innings is one of the baseball bets that I am sweating out right now. I do have another best bet coming up in a game that starts in a little less than an hour from now. We are just getting underway. There is a full slate of Major League Baseball games in action to sweat out and live bet. And the first of the 2 play-in games tonight where the Miami Heat have jumped out to a dominating start. We'll tell you about that coming up next. He is Will Hill. I'm Scott Seidenberg. We are here on VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Scott Seidenberg and Will Hill back here with you on VSiN PrimeTime, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. The Miami Heat starting out pretty good. They are up 12 to 4 over the Atlanta Hawks, and the Miami Heat on the live line are now minus 5.5, or now it's 12 to 6, minus 5.5. The Heat over the Hawks, your total is up to 222.5. So a good start from the Miami Heat. Again, 12-6 is the score, Will. And as for my Tyler Hero bet, which in the first game 2 days ago, we were almost hitting this like right before we started. He has not attempted a three-pointer yet. So the Tyler Hero tracker is still at 0.
Yeah, and Hero, I don't know if you saw this. He had a funny quote, and he didn't mean it to be funny after the game against the Bulls on, what was it, Tuesday night or Wednesday night. He said, the job is not finished. Well, yeah, you're in the playing game, so of course the job is not finished. It's not, you're not in the finals or anything. So yeah, the job is not finished. I thought that was funny. The whole playing thing is amusing. And I just sent you the tweet where Barkley said, these teams stink. They're sitting ducks, and I can't wait for tomorrow. So a very I mean,
he's right,
enthusiastic Barkley. No, he's not. He tells the truth.
Yeah.
He's not always informed on the day-to-day, the players. He's not breaking down the X's and O's, but he is incredibly entertaining because he's not afraid to say anything. He speaks his mind, and he is a lot of fun to watch.
All right, so speaking of your baseball live bets, the only thing that I can play here is top of the third inning, number of runs to be scored. 0 is minus 390, and we're talking about the Phillies against the Marlins. Philadelphia, by the way, has just scored again. It is 3-0 Philly in the bottom of the second inning. Boy, Sandy Alcantara, I know he's going to be one of the biggest names that everyone's talking about come trade deadline, but he is still not back from his injury. He has not established himself just yet. He still needs more time, get his arm strength back up, get his rhythm back in, because he is struggling early on here. Wheeler against Alcantara, Philly up 3-0, and they have first and third with nobody out. So I'm loving where my position right now on the first 5 innings, laying a half a run with Philadelphia. Would you play that? 0 runs to be scored, minus 390 for the Marlins in the top of the third inning.
No, I mean, I could lose that with one swing, minus 390 for a lightning bet like that. No, I mean, it's probably going to win. It's supposed to win, by the way. Rodon in early trouble here for the Yanks. So we can get to some of these games. No, I wouldn't play it. I thought when I was in Vegas last year, I remember Caesars having these lightning bets with, will a team have a hit in a particular inning? And it can seem degenerate. You're betting on something that's so quickly as it looks like the Phillies just continue to tee off on Alcantara. Another run scores. It's 4-0. But if you get a situation where you get the bottom of the lineup against the guy as good as Wheeler, like one blue pick can be, there's always ways to lose any bet, but they're fun bets. And I think there's good angles for this stuff.
Yeah. The only thing that, like I said, I'm on Caesars right now and I'm looking at the, at bat numbers, and then of course if you just go to half inning, it says top of the third inning home run, yes, no, top of the third inning number of runs scored. So that's the only thing available.
Missed opportunity
right
for
now.
These books post markets, DraftKings post markets. I'm not sure if FanDuel has it, but post markets on this stuff, people want to bet it. You got a nice little hold on it, and you get action. It's fun, and it gives. Look, if you build it, people will come. If you put these markets up, people are going to bet this stuff.
100%. Elsewhere, let's check out the rest of the Major League Baseball scoreboard. Cole Reagan's pitching for the Royals against Jackson Jobe and the Tigers. The Royals have a 1-0 lead in the second inning. Guardians and Pirates are tied at 1 in the third. That was Luis Ortiz starting for the Guardians and Carmen Modzinski on the mound for the Pirates. We mentioned the Phillies now up 4-0 in the bottom of the second inning over the Marlins. Yankees and Rays are scoreless in the first. Carlos Rodon for the Yankees, Drew Rasmussen for the Rays. Reds and Orioles scoreless. They're just getting underway in the first inning. Same thing with the Mariners and the Blue Jays. Cardinals, Mets, lots of games in progress right now. Red Sox, White Sox, Twins, and Braves still to come. At the top of the hour, the Dodgers and the Rangers from Texas, where I will have a best bet on that game, or maybe it's a half a game bet. Taking a look at some live totals right now. Philly and Miami, as it's 4-0 Philadelphia, live total is 11.5 for that game. 11.5. Do you see Philly? There's nobody out, and they have runners on second and third. Do you see them scoring more runs in this half inning? And do you think there's a play here on an over 11.5?
I just don't know how many the Miami's going to contribute
point
here. So, yeah, what's a run line here with Philly?
6.5.
Probably 6.5, 7.5.
7.5 now.
Yeah, that's expensive. I think it's priced properly.
Yeah. The only thing is, like, when you are betting an over like that, you kind of need the other team to score some runs.
Sure.
And if it's not happening, well, then you're not going to hit your over. Let's check back in on the play-in game in the NBA as the Heat have a 21-14 lead over the Atlanta Hawks. Total still where it was, 222.5. The Heat are 5.5-point favorites. Trae Young's got 7 points early on, so I'm not happy about that, because I do have his points to go under, and Tyler Hero has not attempted a three-pointer. He has 0 points. Andrew Wiggins leading the way for the Heat with 9 points. He is 2 of 2 from three-point range. Maybe I should have played the Andrew Wiggins three-point prop in this one. So anything surprise you about the way that this game has started out, Will? The pace, at least.
No, not looking to force anything. Miami's looked good early, flipping back and forth here between the baseball, trying to watch everything. What's your TV situation? You got all this stuff on in front of you, obviously?
Yeah, pretty much, and everything obviously behind me. So during commercial break, I turn around and I got the big screen here.
So let me ask you.
Yep.
When you're live betting, do you like to just focus on one game and hone in and get every detail and get a feeling of that, or do you like to scope out 4 or 5 different games and figure through 4 or 5 games I can find an angle for one of them?
I like to focus on one game. However, as I've been live betting more and more, I've kind of developed I don't know if you want to call it a pattern or a system. Like, there's things that I look for that I can generally look across. Like in basketball, it's a little bit easier than in baseball, just because it's early on in the baseball season and we're still trying to figure out the data points on these players. But I can look across, all the scorers and the box scores and kind of pinpoint something that catches my eye and know what to live bet based on that. But if I think, and this is something that I've talked about for forever, live betting can be extremely profitable if you are focused in on one game. Because if you know what's going on in the course of a game that maybe the sports book is not up to date on, because a lot of these live markets are just a computer algorithm that's spitting out a number based on what the projection for the full game was. So if you're paying attention to a game, and whether it's a player injury, whether it's football and there's weather concerns, or just, game script, and you look at and see the way a game is playing out and the way an opposing team might look to play the rest of the game, right? Whether they're leading or they're trailing, you can make a ton of profit doing live betting.
Sure. Basketball, are they calling a lot of fouls? All right, this team's in the bonus. Maybe you play the team total over. Both teams are in the bonus. You play the over in general. Umpires got a big zone. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things to look for. As somebody in Cleveland looks like couldn't tell who homered, but that's a home run. You never know. That's the other thing with all these games out in front of you. You never know what's live and what's a replay, and sometimes that can fool you. That's tough as a bettor too. When you see something, you get excited. It's a replay. That's from 3 innings ago.
So you said that was a 3-run homer you just saw for Cleveland?
Home run, but I think it's a replay. Yeah. It's 1-1. So yep. I got the box on that channel 720 where they're showing all the games, and they show somebody go deep, round the bases. But it was, I guess, a previous homer for Cleveland. We were texting about this earlier as we're going to break here. How about, we probably should have brought this up already. How about that Arizona-Chicago game? We ended the show last night with you giving out a Yurfie. Oh, my goodness. For a team to score 10 runs in a game and lose is really hard to do.
How about
for a team to score 10 runs in an inning and lose is almost impossible. I think 3 times over the last 50 or 60 years it's happened. What a wild, wild game that was. Huh?
How about a game that features 24 runs and I still lose the Yurfie? There was no runs scored in the first inning. There were 24 runs scored in the game. None in the first inning. And the Cubs had first and second with nobody out to start the bottom of the first inning. And Seiya Suzuki grounds into a double play, followed by a fly out. And that is how the first inning ended. But then they jumped right on Corbin Burns. And then, the wind blowing out. There was a grand slam by Ian Happ. The Diamondbacks have that ridiculous 8th inning. The Cubs respond. Yeah, what a wacky, wacky game that was for sure. But, hey, I lost the Yurfie. It is what it is. It won't be the first loss. It's not the first loss, and it certainly won't be the last loss. Hey, coming up next, we're going to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs. I actually have a formula for determining who is going to win the Stanley Cup playoffs. But Adam Kimelman from NHL.com, he is one of their editors, will join us coming up next on the program. Want to remind you guys, the NFL draft starts next week, next Thursday. VSiN knows how every pick matters, so you got to tune in for 2 special live shows breaking down every pick from a betting perspective. VSiN PrimeTime Draft Edition starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, followed by Cashing Out Draft Edition at 11 p.m. Eastern. Plus, explore our NFL Draft Hub on the VSiN Watch app. Visit vsin.com/draft for full coverage and stream it all live on the VSiN Watch app. He's Will Hill. I'm Scott Seidenberg. This is VSiN PrimeTime.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Heat lead the Hawks 28-22 as the first quarter is winding down. We will keep you up to date on everything going on in the final play-in game in the Eastern Conference. I'm Scott Seidenberg alongside Will Hill. This is VSiN Primetime right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Not only does the NBA playoffs first round get underway tomorrow, but so does the Stanley Cup playoffs. And joining us now on the Progressive Guest Line to break it all down is Adam Kimelman, NHL.com editor, joining us here on VSiN Primetime. Adam, let's start with this. You look at these first round playoff series, and we do have some good ones. Obviously, the betting markets are going to look at some of these, and they're going to be priced one way, overwhelming in terms of a favorite. We have others that are pretty split evenly, that the market expects it to be a long, drawn-out series. Of the first round series, which one are you most excited to watch?
That's a good one. I think the Battle of Florida, Tampa and the Panthers, is going to be really, really good. It's really interesting. The Lightning sort of have kind of made this, you didn't know quite what they were going to be. They lose Steven Stamkos. Andrei Vasilevsky had a down season coming off the back surgery. Would he be able to get back to that championship level? That's a team that's played a lot of hockey, and they really hit their stride in the second half of the season. The Panthers sort of, kind of the same boat. They've had some injuries. What exactly are they going to be? Who's going to be in the lineup come game one? They played a lot of hockey the last 2 years. I think in our preview, one of my coworkers had, something like 250 games in 900 days. It's like a game every 3 days for the last 2.5 years. that's brutal. And now you have to go through it all over again. Back-to-back trips to the Stanley Cup final. Now can they do it for a third time? So to me, that's a really interesting series, and it's going to be physical as all hell. Two teams that clearly don't like each other, and it's become quite the rivalry, and they've turned Florida into the state of hockey, it feels like.
Adam, when you look at the futures market, awards, Conn Smythe, to win the cup, you get some big numbers on a lot of these guys, a lot of these teams. Does anything jump out to you that to you triggers a bet?
Well, I'm not really one to make wagers in the sports market, but for me, the award, if we're going to talk about what kind of award, who could be a surprise winner, I'm really interested to see where Connor Hellebuck ends up when they do the reveal for the Hart Trophy bout. There are some people who, are dead set against a goalie winning the MVP because they've got their own award. They've got the Vezina Trophy. And I think it's pretty certain Hellebuck's going to win that. Can he be the most valuable player in the league? How do you give the MVP to a guy who plays 65 games? Even if they are 65 high-level games where he was an A-plus player almost every night, do you give that to him ahead of a skater who's out there 82 games a year, 82 games a season, and produces the way a guy like a Nathan McKinnon or a guy like Nikita Kucherov or someone like Jack Eichel did? That's a really difficult question to answer. I don't have a vote. I know for us at NHL.com, we don't have votes, but we do our own little, a tracker amongst ourselves. I had Hellebuck third on my list. So we actually have it up on .com now who the consensus was. So you can certainly check that out. Nathan McKinnon of the Colorado Avalanche was the consensus choice. But for me, I think Hellebuck is he a top three candidate for sure, but I don't know if he's the winner. That's going to be really interesting to me as far as the award standings go.
Well, speaking of Connor Hellebuck, and right now he's the third favorite to win the Conn Smythe Trophy at plus 1,800. The Winnipeg Jets, in my opinion, are completely disrespected in this betting market. And you just look at them. They've been the best team all year long from start to finish. They have the best goaltender in the world, and they have 2 top 10 scorers. This team is seriously legit, but how much does, everyone looks at the past failures of Hellebuck in the playoffs or just the Jets in the playoffs. I made the point earlier this week that Hellebuck's experience in the Four Nations face-off is going to prove to be the difference in his performance upcoming in the Stanley Cup playoffs. How much stock do you put into that for a guy like Hellebuck who has to overcome some of these failures in the past in the playoffs, but having that experience playing in that massive, standalone game against Canada and winning? Yes, he lost the other one to Binnington, but how do you think that that's going to factor into his performance and leading the Jets to advancing here in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Well, there's always going to be those questions. Everybody's going to it's going to be a question mark until you turn it into an exclamation point. That's what Hellebuck has to do. Look, everybody go back and watch the video of what happened last year against Colorado when he gave up 4 goals a game in 5 straight games after having a Vezina caliber season. And I talked to Adam Lowry probably about a month ago, and I asked him, about that situation. He said, look, we lost our defensive structure. It wasn't necessarily that Hellebuck played bad. We got out of what makes us good, and we couldn't get back to it. And then 5 games later, we're on the golf course. So, yes, it's a team effort, win or lose, but to them, those players still feel like they have the best goalie in the league behind them, and they'll go to battle with him. But externally, there are going to be those questions until he does it. And yes, Four Nations was great. They had to win in the preliminary round again in the round robin game against Canada. But again, in the championship game, he wasn't the best goalie on the ice. So, yes, you can take a little something from that. Yes, that was a high, pressure situation. But the Stanley Cup playoffs are different. And he's got to prove it. And until he does prove it, there are going to be those questions around Connor Hellebuck and the Winnipeg Jets. The President's Trophy is a nice thing to have in your trophy case. Not the award you want, though.
Adam, what is your most contrarian opinion here entering the playoffs? The thing that everyone else believes that you're not so sure of?
Oh, goodness. I might be the wrong person to ask that because when we did our predictions on NHL.com, I picked 7 of the 8 teams that have home ice to advance, at least through the first round. But I do think the Los Angeles Kings have a chance to really do some damage through this bracket. I like that matchup for them against the Edmonton Oilers. I know Connor McDavid came out the other day and said, there's this view that we're the walking wounded and we're not, and we're good. And I think there's a little thou doth protest too much there. He's been banged up for a while. Leon Draisaitl has been banged up for a while. They haven't had Evander Kane all season. Stuart Skinner, looks like he's back to where he was, but he's still not 100% sure. They don't have Matthias Ekholm for certainly the first round. Who knows how much longer beyond that? This Kings team, there's nothing spectacular about anything. They do everything they do almost perfectly every time they do it. And I'm a huge Quentin Byfield fan, and I see him just getting better and better and better every time he's on the ice. Anze Kopitar is still an elite level player. Drew Doughty is still, a guy who can control the game from the back end, and he knows exactly what needs to be done in every situation. He will pace himself. He'll be out there 25, 26 minutes a night, and he'll barely break a sweat, and he'll make all the right plays, and he'll make all the right reads. That is a dangerous team. They're the best home ice team in the league, and they're going to have home ice advantage through the first round. They're a team that, I'll put it this way, it would not surprise me if they made the Stanley Cup final. I think they're that good. They're that diligent in all the little things that they do. I mean, they might win every game 2-1 or 3-1, but they're comfortable playing those games.
Adam, we got a little over a minute left. Speaking of injuries, with the injury to Logan Thompson and the uncertainty about his availability for the Washington Capitals, do you give the Canadiens a fighting chance in this series?
I do. I don't know how good that Montreal team is, but man, they will grind you down. And that top line, Slafkovsky, Caulfield, and Suzuki, that's an elite group. Those 3 guys are elite level. And Nick Suzuki really, certainly since the Four Nations, has taken his game to a whole other level. You see what Lane Hudson's able to do as a rookie. I mean, he again, another one, you look at his numbers since the Four Nations, he's been a completely different player. He's taken his game to another level. I think if Washington has to go win with Charlie Lindgren, I still think they can win that series, but I wouldn't put it past the Canadiens to pull the upset. If Logan Thompson's in there, I think it's a shorter series. I think Washington goes through them quick. Still think Washington wins. It's a little bit of a harder battle if it's Charlie Lindgren in there.
Adam, appreciate the time and the insight, and enjoy the games.
Thanks, guys. Anytime.
Thanks, Adam.
There he is. Adam Kimelman, an editor for NHL.com, joined us on the Progressive guest line. Coming up next, we'll take a pause away from the Stanley Cup playoffs. Coming up a little bit later on in the program, I'm going to give you my formula to picking a Stanley Cup champion, and I will give you my picks on every single first-round series. But coming up next, we will get you up to date on everything going on between the Hawks and the Heat, as well as the Major League Baseball scoreboard and a best bet for the games starting at the top of the hour. He's Will Hill on Twitter at @NotTheWillHill. I'm Scott Seidenberg on Twitter at ScottsOnAir. This is VSiN PrimeTime, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Scott Seidenberg and Will Hill back here on VSiN PrimeTime, here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Will, I know yesterday you were looking at the Aaron Judge at-bat props. You didn't bet it tonight. He walked in his first at-bat. So, of course, you didn't play it, and he walked. So that would have cashed for you if you did play it. However, you thought about playing it for a second at bat. I'm glad you didn't, because he grounded out. So you did not.
Just got to be one of these things where I remind myself to bet it every time. Because I think at plus 550, plus 475, with how he's hitting, I think teams are just going to dare other players in the lineup to beat him. Chisholm hitting behind him, Goldschmidt, whoever it is. You're not going to let this guy beat you. So I don't know that the book is quite caught up to it. Maybe I'm just better off playing before the game judged to draw a walk. I know that was one that was very profitable for a while last year before eventually the books caught up. You could get it plus money, even money for him to just draw one walk per game. Eventually they juiced it where it was -2, -300. It just wasn't quite worth it, but I do think the judge walk angle is still going to be a good one.
So I'm going to invest. I'm actually going to do a live at bat prop here with, because you've inspired me to do this. So I am going to bet Junior Caminero, who is going to get up next inning. Let's see, the last out for the Rays in the bottom of the second was Mangum. So that means that leading off the inning, it'll be Walls leading off, followed by Diaz and Caminero batting third. Now, Caminero homered last night. So here's what I did. Next plate appearance for Junior Caminero, coming up bottom of the third inning against Carlos Rodon. I sprinkled a little bit on the home run at plus 2,300. I sprinkled a little bit on a double at plus 1,400. But the main bet, I did a single at plus 410. So a single for Caminero plus 410, home run plus 2,300, double plus 1,400. So we just need him to do something in his next at bat. He is 1 for 1 already off of Carlos Rodon. You riding with me or what?
Bold prediction: you will not win all three.
I don't think that's going to happen. Imagine I guess you can bet a guy to get a cycle, but imagine you bet the exact outcomes for all of their at bats, and you said, hey, in the first at bat this is going to happen, in the second at bat this is going to happen, in the third at bat this is going to happen. That would be absolutely wild.
It's funny because I was tweeting about the Cubs game, and somebody tweeted at me that they bet Kyler Tucker to hit a double in the game. All he had to do was hit one double in the game, and I didn't see the box score, but I guess he fell a double. He fell a double shy of the cycle. He did everything but a double.
That's unbelievable in a game that featured that many runs. Speaking of runs, the Phillies have a 6-0 lead over the Marlins in the top of the fourth inning. Zach Wheeler has only allowed 2 hits so far in his 3 innings of work. Guardians and Pirates are tied at 2 in the top of the fourth. Tigers a 2-1 lead over the Royals in the bottom of the fourth inning in Detroit. Reds and Orioles top of the third inning in Baltimore. Orioles lead 1-0. The Yankees a 1-0 lead top of the third over the Rays. They do have first and third with 2 outs. Jazz Chisholm is up to bat. Going to the bottom of the third in Toronto, Blue Jays lead the Mariners 2-1. Red Sox a 3-0 lead over the White Sox, top of the third inning there in Boston. Cardinals an early 1-0 lead over the Mets, bottom of the third in Citi Field. And the Twins an early 2-0 lead over the Braves, bottom of the second inning in Atlanta. I have a best bet coming up right now, in about 10-15 minutes or so from now in Texas between the Dodgers and the Rangers. Before I give out my best bet, Will, what's your thoughts on this game? You got Jacob deGrom on the mound for Texas, and it's the first time that deGrom's an underdog in years, by the way. Now, he's been out for a while, so you have to take that with a grain of salt because he hasn't pitched many games in the past several years, but I believe it's the first time he's a dog since about 2019. And Yamamoto on the mound for the Dodgers. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, we talked about this game a little bit last night. I think you look towards the first 5 under, which I don't disagree with. I like taking the half a run here in the first 5. I do think deGrom is better than he's pitched. Got hit with a couple homers last time against Seattle, and then they had a tough luck run against him where they scratched out a run on a couple of soft singles. That was last Friday night. So he's got a full week of rest. He's, I think, going to get better as he continues to just ramp up and get back from the surgery he had. So I expect a better version of deGrom. Texas has not hit well, but they've won the last couple games here. I do think there's a better version of this Texas offense than we've seen, where they're in the bottom of the league in a lot of these categories, which you don't think of with Texas, with Seager and Garcia. And I know some of it is their guys are on the IL with Langford, and they just seem to always be beat up and missing pieces like they were last year. But I like the look here of taking deGrom plus a half a run. Do you have any thoughts or bets on this game? Yeah,
I got a best bet coming up in just a second. But if you look at the Texas Rangers, they have actually been a very strong home under team. They've played 10 games at home this year. The Texas Rangers are 9-1 straight up in those home games. But they're also 9-1 to the under in those home games, Will. 9-1 to the under at home. the Texas Rangers. On average, the Rangers are scoring 4 runs at home. On average, they're allowing 2.4 runs per game at home. So this is the best home under team in baseball right now at 9-1 to the under. And that's the theme that I'm playing here. And I'm going to target the first 5 innings for my best bet. Best bet brought to you by G-Bank, by the way, the official bank of VSiN. I'm going to target the starting pitchers with Jacob deGrom and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And I'm going to go with the under 4 runs in the first 5 innings. You can actually get, if you go to DraftKings or another book, 4.5 runs at minus 154. That would actually be a better bet to be made. But if you do get some plus money on the under 4, like maybe plus 105 or plus 110, I don't hate that. But on DraftKings, you can get under 4.5 in the first 5 innings at minus 154. That would be a best bet for me. I just look at both of these pitchers, the ability to start early. I think DeGrom looking to bounce back after a subpar performance his last time out. He's at home, should be comfortable. His last time out, he was in Seattle. I do think that the Dodgers start out slow here, and the Rangers continue their underways. And I could get there even if one team struggles. Even if, let's say, DeGrom gives up 2 or 3 runs. The Rangers offense, as we just mentioned, only scoring 4 runs per game at home, 9-1 to the under at home. Yamamoto is having an incredible start to his season. So even if the Dodgers do scratch across some runs against Jacob deGrom, I don't think that the Rangers are going to score enough to push this total in the first 5 innings to beyond 5 runs or beyond. So give me the under 4.5, minus 154 up on DraftKings. Best bet, first 5 innings, under 4.5. Rangers and Dodgers starting 10 minutes from now in Arlington. As a reminder, best bets are brought to you by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. G-Bank is upping the ante with up to a $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. First off, new customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from account opening receive a $250 bonus. And in addition, if you spend $50K on gaming and sports app loads within the 30 days of account opening, you'll receive another $500 bonus. Apply now at VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSiN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. Will, when you see numbers like that, as I mentioned, a team that is 9-1 to the under at home, do you tend to ride some of those streaks, or do you think that it's just fluky and then over the course of the season, obviously the numbers will even out, or is there something to it why they're playing to an under?
Yeah, I'm trying to put it together as you're saying that because I had not heard that stat. It's one of two things. It's either the offense is overvalued for Texas or the pitching is undervalued. Of course, it could be a combination of the two. It probably is. But to answer your question, if I've been betting it, I'll continue to bet it. If I haven't bet it and it's 9-1, I just feel like I'm late to the party. Same thing with those Sacramento overs where I didn't bet it in the first 4 or 5 hits. You know what? I'm not going to be, if you're not there for the wedding, don't be there for the funeral. So I just laid off, and I know we've gotten some unders since. So if it's one of those things where if I'm not there for the 9-1 stretch, I'm not going to be the last guy up at the buffet. So I'm just going to lay off of it.
Yep, they are the best under team at home this year, 9-1 to the under. The second best home team to the under this year is, take a guess, Will. Take a guess.
Tampa. No, it's not Tampa. What are the criteria again?
It's the second best under team at home this year. They're 6-1 to the under at home.
I'll go Miami.
The New York Metropolitans.
Oh, okay.
6-1 to the under at home.
Surprised me with their offense because they don't have great starting pitching either.
Yep.
So that's a surprise.
Absolutely. Your best over teams: Cubs are 6-1, Orioles 5-1-2, Nationals 7-2 to the over at home. Hey, Edge Boost is the first ever bank account built for bettors, ensuring all gambling transactions are approved. No usage fees, no minimums, and you can earn cashback rewards. 100% approval for all betting deposits. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet with promo code PRIME. Deposit $25 and Edge Boost will match that deposit. That's edgeboost.bet. He's Will Hill. I'm Scott Seidenberg. We'll update you on the Heat and the Hawks coming up next right here on VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.